A Legacy of Heroes, the story of Bataan and Corregidor. Year 1941 was the start of a catastrophe in our country. It marked a historical event that will always be remembered, especially the heroic veterans who bravely fought for our homeland that brings proud moment in our history. It is the story of Bataan and Corregidor and the legacy that they left for us. It was when our country was colonized by Americans for 5 years, and many people by that time wanted to stay in the Philippines since it is considered before a good living, especially for the soldiers. But summertime in 1941, the Japanese had a collision with the Americans and wanted to hit US bases and would start in the Philippines. Americans underestimate what they can do and did not believe that the Japanese were ready for a war, until they launched a surprise attack on the big US naval base at Pearl Harbor, and within 6 hours, they bombed Baguio and Davao without warning. This moment was the start of World War II that happened in our country. General Douglas MacArthur, the military advisor of the Philippines, did a last-minute training for commands. Bataan and Corregidor Island are his major defense positions. Thousands of Filipinos, even without military training, rushed to enlist to defend our country, but most of them have no armor but only have tennis shoes. MacArthur planned for troops, Filipino and US Scouts and Army forces, but did not know that there were almost 40,000 civilians who would go to Bataan to seek for security. Then, Manila became an open city and cleared military personnel to avoid civilian casualties and damages. Even though they had plans to protect our country, Japan still managed to occupy and took Manila on New Year's Day of 1942. As the war continued, the first and second line of defense were conquered by the Japanese, though they had casualties of 2,275 men killed in action and 4,049 wounded. During the war, Japanese also dropped leaflets about women and children and took it as an entertainment. But defenders were motivated to fight harder as Erlinda, a young Filipina that was raped and killed that became the cry of the defiance. President Roosevelt promised to send help for our country but did not fulfill his words. Instead, he held Britain over the Philippines. Soldiers that time had short supplies of food and medicine. They ate porridge and everything they could to survive, and some of them are dying due to malaria. They even made a cemetery themselves just to bury their allies who died during that time. President Quezon was frustrated and declared independent and neutral to Americans. He ordered both Japanese and Americans out of the country, but the US disapproved. President Quezon said that how typically American to anguish over a fate of a distant cousin while a daughter is being raped in the back room. It was no longer safe to keep President Quezon and General MacArthur in the country. Both of them leave Bataan, and just before leaving, MacArthur promised to return.
2 years ago, when I landed on your soil, I said to the people of the Philippines whence I came, I shall return. Tonight, I repeat those words. I shall return.
In the end, Bataan and Corregidor fell into the hands of the Japanese. 66,000 Philippine soldiers and 10,000 US troops became prisoners and had to walk 10 kilometers to O'Donnell prison camp. It is known as the Death March. Many Filipinos and Americans faced death through hunger and diseases that weakened them. They were hopeless for many years, and in 1944, when General Douglas MacArthur returned with the Allied forces,
"This is the voice of freedom, General MacArthur speaking. People of the Philippines, I have returned."
it was the time when the Philippines were free from the Japanese. Even though what happened in Bataan and Corregidor is known as the Forgotten War, this is a legacy that must not be forgotten. Veterans sacrificed even their life just to fight for our motherland. Filipinos do the fighting and even the dying during those times. We must honor and recognize their sacrifices, and by unity and courage, heroes of Bataan and Corregidor pass the torch of freedom and nationhood to every one of us.